I'm actually being told this is exciting. This is something that's been in the works for a bit, and on line 3, I have a special guest who's going to be on the show. I don't know if you know, his autobiography, A Pound of Flesh, came out last week, and it is an insane rock book. In the history of rock books, you know, rock memoirs, I'd say this one, it's like the Motley Crue book, The Dirt, is kind of been the gold standard. And this one, I would say, gives The Dirt a run for its money. And for people who might not know who I'm talking about Gar McDaniel, who, if you guys remember the band Flesh from the late 70s, he was the drummer. They were a band from my neck of the woods in Newbridge, and they were pretty popular. And they were kind of like there were a lot of bands of that era that were like party bands. And, you know, like that kind of partying hard rock stuff. And these guys, I guess it would be like 76, 77, all the way to the mid-80s that they were, that was kind of their heyday. And the music was always kind of, like that song, Always Rockin', Always Partying. Low Down Woman was another big hit. And then Loving You's Why It Was Created, which was kind of their version. We actually talked about bands doing disco stuff earlier, and that was kind of their entry into that. And, I guess for people who don't know Flesh, if you go to Newbridge Ratmen games, you know, you hear Newbridge Town of Rock, that's them. That was their hometown anthem they did. And that's that song that plays from the PA for every game. And, Gar was the guy who did the big hit by the band, the ballad. It's called Maureen. And it won a People's Choice Award, I think, in 1979, I think. He co-wrote it and sang lead on that song. You might also know him. He went on and did some acting. Played Rex on the Southside General. It was a soap opera. It was on the Shout Network in the 80s. And he did get fired from the show. It was kind of like the scandal of its... I guess it was like again, for people who don't have perspective, it's like the Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan thing of like the 80s. It was Gar McDaniel, and he got fired. It was a thing with I think it was like 5 pounds of cocaine, a dart gun, and a stolen blimp. And he's done a bunch of solo albums, a bunch of times in rehab, a lot of wives and children, and there's been reunions. The band Flesh has gotten back together a few times, and Gar is still in it, and he wrote a book called Pound of Flesh, and this is a true honor. It is a true honor to have him on the air tonight, and I am excited to welcome to the best show from Flesh, Gar McDaniel. Are you there, Gar?
Put it over there. Look, I don't care what you do with it. Just put it there. Stop messing with it.
Hello?
Hey, it's Gar.
Hey, Gar, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you? Hey, sorry things are crazy over here at the old homestead. My family and I were cooking a late dinner, and, things get a little heated when we're trying to make the red sauce.
Uh-huh, how so?
Well, I get a little angry if my wife, if she don't follow my dear mother's recipe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I may be a rocker, but I'm still just a Newbridge Street kid.
Yeah.
I get kind of testy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like when push comes to shove.
Yeah, the fangs come out.
Sure. Well, that's actually an interesting part of the book.
Right.
And let's start, as they say, begin at the beginning.
Right.
And I got to tell you though, I love the book so much.
Oh, thank you. It's quite a trip, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is loaded. It is wall to wall with the most unbelievable rock stories and adventures I think I've ever come across in any rock book. Again, I said earlier, it's the Motley Crue book, The Dirt, seemed to set the bar.
That's right, yeah.
And this book, it equals that at least.
It does, right?
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I could actually print.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah. Well, like I said, beginning at the beginning.
Right.
You grew up in Newbridge.
I did, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about growing up on the streets of Newbridge?
Sure, yeah. I was born in the Satan's Ottoman section of Newbridge, just off of Pancake Road, which is actually quite gentrified now, but back in the 60s it was a very tough place. You had to be really tough to hang there. And basically I was then and am now still a genius, but I didn't do well in school. I was very bored there. I didn't like it. I felt like I was pent up. I was also a real cut up and a real troublemaker too. Mm-hmm. And I had a real hair trigger temper back then.
Uh-huh.
I guess some would say I still have it. Ask wives 1 through 4, I guess.
About your temper?
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you one time. As an example, I once held my shop teacher's face 2 inches from a whirring saw until he gave me and my friends B's for the year.
Really? Like he changed your grades?
Yeah, from F's to B's. I thought A's might look too suspicious,
Uh-huh.
I'm always thinking, right?
Uh-huh, okay.
It's pretty smart, right?
Yeah, to kind of, you didn't go all the way with it because that would raise some
Absolutely
suspicion.
Yeah. But that's around the time I got in with the gang that I hung out with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Almighty Ramrods.
Uh-huh, that was the gang?
We were bad news, man.
The Almighty Ramrods.
Oh, yeah. We had rumbles with all the gangs from the other towns.
Like what other gangs did you rumble with?
Well, we tangled with the Westbridge Destroyers, the Eastbridge Maulers, the Old Bridge Old Guys. Mm-hmm. You ever hear about those guys?
No.
Total trip, man. These were normal kids, like our age, but they dressed like and wore makeup that made them look like old guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was to disarm whoever asses they were about to kick.
So they would dress up like old guys, throw
with
people
canes
off.
and stuff.
Uh-huh.
They'd go up to some kids hanging out at the corner store and say, Sonny, can you open that door for an old man?
Yeah.
And then the kid would open the door, and they'd shove the kid's head in the door jamb, and they'd shut the door on his head, just slamming it over and over again, while the other kids would beat him with their canes and steal his wallet. Sometimes they'd even steal the kid's clothes. And if they were really feeling mean, sometimes they'd make the kid eat his own clothes.
Oh, that's rough.
It's really bad.
That's hard. It's hard to picture because, like you said, the neighborhood is
very different now.
Yeah. It was rough back then. That's wild.
Yeah. That's when I actually built my first zip gun. I make a few extra bucks selling zip guns to my friends. And
a zip gun's like a homemade gun that just fires like it's a makeshift gun.
Exactly, yeah. Not like a real pistol, but the same kind of deal. It could do real damage.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not gonna lie, I used them a couple times.
Uh-huh. Because in the book, you actually, I guess you could say you imply that in one of these rumbles you actually killed a rival gang member.
It was a very crazy time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, did you actually kill someone?
Look, I will not answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me, all right? But let's just say this. Yeah, it was me and another guy, and only one of us walked away.
Wow.
Yeah. I will say this also, that none of the guys I hung out with back then are still alive.
Mm-hmm.
They were either killed in prison or killed on the street or killed at church.
Killed a church.
Yeah, some of those churches were really rough back then.
Really?
Yeah. Kids have it too easy nowadays, if you ask me.
Man, that is that's intense. That's real.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
Very heavy.
Now, Gar, when you I guess it was around when you were around 13 that you
Right.
started playing drums.
Yes, that's correct. I kind of just fell in love with music around then, and I loved the Beatles, and I loved the Stones, and I loved all that British Invasion stuff. But my real love was Motown and Stax and R&B.
Uh-huh.
I could sing the S out of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's still my favorite music to listen to and to play.
Uh-huh. Like R&B.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And around then I started taking drum lessons at knife point at around age 13.
You said at knife point.
Yeah.
What do you mean by knife point?
Well, I found a teacher who I really wanted to take lessons from, but I couldn't afford to pay him. So I'd hold a knife to his throat in one hand, and I'd do the drum lesson with the other hand, and then halfway through I'd switch hands with the knife and the stick. That's how we did it back then. We were street kids and we had our own code.
Wow, that's man, it is
Crazy. He's actually dead now.
The teacher is.
Yeah.
Wow. So.
Yeah.
So.
But I practiced a lot and I got really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing in local Newbridge bands, like the R&B Bandits, the Soul Stealers, the Maniac Car Thieves.
Mm-hmm. Those were all the bands. Those are your early
young kind of R&B kind of British Invasion soul bands. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you a great story from back then.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's actually in the book.
Okay.
Okay. So it's 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm playing with my first real band, like a pro band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Percival Slate.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And we're opening for The Who at the Fillmore Southeast, which, of course, was Bill Graham's venue in Newbridge around that time.
The Fillmore Southeast.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. Hey, trivia question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Percival Slate was?
No.
Come on, it's historical.
No, I have no idea.
Oh, man, okay. Well, Percival Slate was the man who invented the urinal cake.
Okay.
We were going through for a historical vibe back then, kind of like Jethro Tull.
Sure.
And we were doing these epic songs, too. The Hangman and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
The Corset of Dear Lady Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
And our version of the complete works of Beethoven. Very heavy stuff. Very, very hard stuff to get a handle on.
Like all the Beethoven stuff.
Oh, yeah, all of it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
So we play our set, and then The Who comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And they did their thing, and as the show was ending, Keith Moon and John Entwistle come up to me, and they asked me, where's the party? They want a party all night.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to say, no?
Okay.
Of course I'm not. So we're in the back of their limo, and we're driving all around Newbridge, going from bar to bar, literally drinking the places dry.
Uh-huh.
And I mean literally.
Literally?
Yeah, there was no alcohol left in any of these bars that we went to.
You literally drank all of it?
All of it, yeah, all the dregs. So then Keith starts asking me about Demolition Derby,
mm-hmm.
which they don't have in England.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to see one.
Okay.
But, of course, it's late at night now, and the Newbridge Derby's closed.
Mm-hmm.
It's also closed because the roving sinkhole that kept popping up around town. Guys would drive into it with their cars, and they wouldn't be seen again.
Yeah.
That sinkhole kind of made its way over to the Demolition Derby parlor.
Mm-hmm.
So people were dying.
Wow. Yeah, that sinkhole.
Not good stuff.
No.
Still there.
So that had knocked the Derby out of commission.
Exactly, yeah. But if you knew Keith the way I did,
Uh-huh.
He would never take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulls out this wad of money, and we end up driving over to Newbridge Used Motors.
Okay.
And, of course, the old man who owned the lot, he was sleeping on a cot in the showroom.
Uh-huh.
Because he wanted to guard the cars. He didn't trust people. He knew there was this rock show in town.
Okay.
So Keith bangs on the glass, but the guy doesn't wake up.
Uh-huh.
So Entwistle, and this is pure Entwistle,
Uh-huh.
he drives the limo through the showroom window.
Okay.
Yeah. So the old fart wakes up,
Uh-huh.
and Mooney throws the wad of cash in the old guy's face, and he buys the entire fleet of cars from him.
Like the used car lot.
Exactly. So we start smashing cars into each other,
Uh-huh.
really wrecking the whole place inside the showroom.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and then Bill Graham shows up and he's furious, right?
Yeah.
So he starts yelling at Keith for making too much noise, and he's saying this is exactly the kind of thing that's going to get the Fillmore Southeast shut down, because the cops were over on his ass already for something I probably can't even mention that happened during an association show a couple weeks earlier.
The band The Association.
Yeah, they had this rep as being, really like, goody stuff. Not at all.
Okay.
Worse than anybody. Worse than Motley Crue.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, Keith keeps driving. So Bill Graham pulls out a flamethrower and he starts aiming it at the cars. And Entwistle's car gets hit by a flame and it explodes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the Oxy jumps out in the nick of time. If he hadn't jumped out,
yeah,
I'm not being dramatic by this.
Okay.
The Pino Palladino era of the Who would have started a lot earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, because he would have been scorched. Yeah. But then Bill Graham, he calmed down and he put down his flamethrower.
Yeah.
And he eventually got into one of the cars and he started driving it around.
Yeah.
Yes, he was smashing into stuff. It was pure rock and roll, man. That's how we did it back then. Not the kind of thing you'd get from Katy Perry now, trust me. Yeah.
Sure.
So, anyway, that band I was in went under.
Percival Slate.
Yeah, the other guys, they couldn't keep it together. And honestly, I was way better than they were.
Okay.
Yeah, and I went quite a while without a gig. I was very particular. I wouldn't play with just anybody. I wasn't going to waste my time with a bunch of hacks. And I'll be honest, it was a real strain on my marriage. Strain, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't think I should have to work a real job,
Sure, because you were...
I was going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
It was my destiny, right? And I was very lucky at the time. My wife, Maureen, she had a really good job as a nurse for the terminally ill at the Veterans Hospital. Oh, man, what a depressing job that was. It really started to wear on her.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it turned her into a real old bag.
What's that?
Really aged her. It turned her into an old bag. No fun to be around at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go out there and live the life. I wanted to hear those crowds cheering for me. I wanted to make love to as many women as possible. Oh, I forgot this. I forgot to put this in the book. And I just remembered it earlier today. I actually tried to kill Maureen with a pillow while she was sleeping so I could go out and party.
Really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
But thankfully it didn't work. Yeah. She doesn't even know about it.
Well, that's a horrible... That's a rough story.
Well, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah. She lived.
Okay.
Anyway, so at this point, I don't know what to do. I'm very desperate. So I place an ad in the Newbridge Electric Guitar, which of course was the main counterculture music magazine here in the early 70s, mid 70s, and it said my ad was it's become notorious and infamous at this point. The ad said, "Drummer willing to set his face on fire to make it."
That was the level of kind of hunger you had.
I had the hunger and the fever.
Yeah.
So that's when I got the fateful call from Jerry Timmons about auditioning for this new band that he and Stan Rogers were putting together. Yeah. And I tried out and I blew everybody away.
Okay.
And the truth is, I was miles ahead of those guys already, in terms of musical expertise and experience.
Sure.
And they were, quite frankly, very lucky to have me. Even though those guys had massive egos. Like I said, they were lucky to have me. And a couple of weeks after that, we found our very gifted but very eccentric guitar player, Dice Stevens, who, of course, became known as the Astro Man due to his, his way out ways.
Yeah. Now, the band's name, I guess, shortly thereafter became Flesh.
Yes.
And where did that name come from?
Well, we wanted something that would have multiple meanings. And Flesh was great because it could be the flesh that a caveman tears into, or it could be the flesh that one caresses to climax. What?
Ugh. Okay.
Yeah. Well, after about a year of slugging it out on the club scene, we were seen by and signed by this hungry manager named Bob Quarters. And Bob told us that if we couldn't get a record deal in 6 months, he would quit and he would also let us roll him down Muffler Row naked.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'd be naked.
Oh, you'd be naked.
Yeah, we love getting naked and doing stuff like that in public.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They actually called me Dr. Sausage for reasons you can probably imagine.
I don't want to imagine.
Yeah, I had a hot link that I would often perform surgery with.
Okay, I didn't. Gar, that's okay. That's part of the story.
Right. Yes, it's part of my history. Anyway, so Bob did get us a record deal in 6 months with this cool new label called Marrakesh Records.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we were off after that.
Yeah, and that's really when the stories. You guys were off, and it's kind of that's when the stories also are kind of off to the races as well.
Yes.
Because it's like you really tell some. The stories are incredible, and they are often unbelievable.
I know.
And
I lived it though.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. Yeah. Things were pretty crazy. I mean, once we had our first hit record in '78, we were already, beyond crazy from being on the road for years without a hit. We had records out, but we didn't actually hit the big time until '78.
Yeah, because it did take a while, for you guys, except like a few albums.
It did.
Before
you
guys really kind of broke through and had a hit.
Yep. I'll tell you one thing. The music business was a very different animal back then.
Mm-hmm. How so?
Yeah. Well, the only streaming that we cared about back then was the stream of
All right, I had to bleep that whole section out, Gar. Just please,
really?
Please be.
Well, that's all in the book. That stuff.
Sure, no, but you're on the radio.
Oh well, okay, well, same kind of deal. The only downloading we did back then was when we. Faces.
And I had to bleep all of that.
Oh well.
So please, just be cognizant of the fact that you're on the radio.
I promise I will.
Okay.
Take for instance, BitTorrenting.
Sure.
The BitTorrenting could only be described as the way in which we. Saw their legs off.
And I had to again, Gar. I'm going to have to ask you, please. All of that I had to bleep off the air.
You bleeped all of that too?
All of it.
Wow, okay. Well, I will say this. Nowadays, you don't even need to be able to sing to become a star,
Really? Is that how you feel about the biz?
Yeah, I mean, look at what's her name, Kesha or Lady Gaga?
Uh-huh.
I mean, sure, they may be juice-worthy, but do I think they could have got it back in the old days? Not in your life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. So you really feel like the biz is different.
Absolutely, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, getting back to the craziness of Flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one time on our first European tour.
Yeah.
This was 1977.
Okay.
And, man, we got booked into the craziest countries. These countries didn't ever have rock concerts, but somehow we got booked there. Several Eastern Bloc countries. And I'll tell you, though, these chicks knew how to party, though.
What's that?
These chicks knew how to party.
Back then?
They were very wild, We
Uh-huh.
didn't know if they were, half the time we didn't know if they were women, men, or animals.
Ugh.
They don't judge me.
Uh-huh.
It was the 70s, anything went.
Well, okay. I mean, I was not there.
Well, it was crazy. I mean, I would often be having full-on intercourse during the show while I was playing.
Really?
Yeah, but I was behind the drums, so only a couple hundred people could see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's...
I'll tell you one thing.
What?
More than once, we had to dip our stuff in motor oil to kill the lobsters you'd get from these groupies.
Lobsters?
Oh, yeah.
What are lobsters?
Well, you've heard stories of guys getting crabs from groupies, right?
Yeah.
Well, these chicks in Poland, they'd give you lobsters.
Okay.
They were like little lobsters.
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah. Gar, you were married this whole time, though, right?
Yes, I was, Tim.
Tom.
Excuse me?
Tom.
What's that? Oh, that's you?
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Well, anyway, don't for a second think that didn't weigh very heavily on me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did partake of the bounty that came my way. But after those orgies, I'll be straight with you. I always prayed to the Lord for guidance.
Really?
Crossed myself, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes that guidance came in the form of an additional 7 or 8 skanks at my hotel room door.
Ugh.
What?
No, it's a different living.
It's straight reportage. It's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, back then, Flesh was you guys were big on the live circuit.
Yes.
I guess you could say, right? You were like a hit band on that circuit.
Very big, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you toured with like Foghat and Boston and Bad Company and Van Halen and bands like that.
All the biggies, yeah.
But until the song Maureen, that was really when you guys broke out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That song in particular was a huge triumph for me. I'd been in the shadow of Gary and Stan for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't let me have a song on a record. They rejected all my songs. And they'd only record theirs every once in a while. They'd let me sing one of theirs. But by this point, I threatened to quit.
Okay.
Yeah, I said I'm going to quit if you don't let me put this 12-minute drum solo on our album that we were working on at that point, which became Ruiner. Yeah. So in their words, they threw me a bone and they let me put Maureen on the album, which was a very out of character for Flesh ballad.
Yes, because it's generally a hard rock band.
That's right.
And then it's the kind of like you said, a ballad.
Yep. And so they put it on the B-side of a single, but then people started turning over the record and playing Maureen. And it really took off. Became a huge hit, and it really raised our profile and made the Ruiner LP huge, a hit record. And I'll be honest, the next few years were just a blur of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I should mention that Maureen, which is a song about being away from your lover for too long, wasn't actually written about my wife, Maureen. I told her it was, and that was the press at the time, too. Yeah, it was actually about this freaky divorcee that I was tapping on the side. Yeah, Rhonda Larson was her name. Yeah.
Rhonda Larson.
Rhonda Larson, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Whatever became of her. I remember she had just had a daughter at the time. That's kind of why I bolted. Yeah, I cut it off with her.
Sure.
Okay, so here's another great story from the book, all right?
Okay.
So we just finished recording our 4th album, which was called Flesh 4, The Force of the Fours. And we're riding really high at the time.
Yeah.
And I knew this album was going to make massive bank.
Okay.
So around this time, I started calling myself Fat Checks.
Okay.
Because all the fat checks that I knew I was going to get, and that I was already getting every day.
So you called yourself Fat Checks.
Fat Checks, yeah. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Well, okay.
Hey, I'm a street kid.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm partying way too much at this point, and I wake up in the morning, I drink a bottle of the finest beer that money could buy, and then it would go downhill from there. Yeah, a lot of skiing going on, if you get my drift. Yeah, I even had that on our rider.
Yeah.
Any and all snowstorms are welcome. And under that, I had in parentheses the word cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah, because some of these promoters, they weren't as smart as I was. Yeah. So we're doing the photo shoot for the 4th album, and of course, anyone who knows that album cover, you'll know that it was just a shot of complete and utter decadence.
Yeah.
It's me and the other guys from Flesh, and we're stripped down, and we're oiled up in these loincloths, and we're surrounded by a barrage of the hottest women imaginable. And they're all completely naked. I'm talking 40 women.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's just say that the alcohol started to flow, and then out came some nose candy, right, which is a slang name for cocaine.
Yeah, no, I knew that. Okay.
And so people started just doing everything. It was total bacchanalia.
Okay.
And at one point, we realized that all the women had stepped out of the room, and it's just the 4 of us on this giant bed. But that's not important.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So anyway, this scenario went on for literally 4 days.
Okay.
I'm not exaggerating.
Really?
Yeah. But then I start to lose it during this whole thing. I start to lose my mind.
Okay.
And I started to hallucinate.
Like
I was hallucinating that I was a giant hamburger. You know, like in the cartoons when a guy's on a desert island and he hasn't eaten, you know, and he imagines this big hamburger.
Yeah.
But I saw myself as a hamburger. And I started running away from everybody because I was afraid they were going to take a chomp out of me.
Okay.
Yeah, and our management got all worried, so they sent me away to a hospital at the top of Mount Newbridge, where I could get some rest and recuperate from the lifestyle that I'd been living for so long. I was really wrecked by this point.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
You know, but within 2 hours of being in my hospital bed, 6 of the hottest nurses you've ever seen come into the room.
Yeah.
All completely naked.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they pulled out my IV.
Yeah.
And they swapped it for a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, I'd heard about the whiskey drip before, you know, that they do this at certain hospitals.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I would ever experience it myself.
So it was like an upside-down bottle of
Absolutely.
Jack Daniels?
Yeah.
Dripping right into your...
Right into my veins, man, getting hammered.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But then all 6 of these nurses, they started to fight over who was going to get the honor of sampling my wares first.
Okay.
It was quite a sight.
Uh-huh.
And again, this thing went on for 4 days.
So 4 more days.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, Gar, you know, even when you try to get some rest and relaxation, you end up in the middle of total bacchanalia.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild story.
It is wild, yeah.
You know. And I guess the band was riding high for a bunch of years. And I guess it was around 83 that things started to get a little tense between you and the other guys?
Yeah. You know, those guys were always on me about something or the other. My tempo's varying, my constant complaining about how they hated my constant complaining, the micro briefs I like to wear when I came out in front of the stage to sing Maureen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I do a little stuff down there, and I take a few minutes to release the hounds before going out front. Okay. You know what I mean?
I think I do, and
Yeah.
So things were.
You got to make an impression, right?
Sure, I'll take your word for it on that.
Well, by this point, you know, I'd had enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there was a lot of drug abuse, and I wasn't thinking completely clearly, but one day I just quit the band.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody could believe it. They thought I was just throwing away a golden ticket. They thought I lost my mind. But in all honesty, yes, we were on top of the world, but I felt my talent was being wasted. Yeah.
And around that period, I guess your first solo album came out.
Yes.
Which is Out From Under Your Thumbs?
Yep. Yeah. Kind of a veiled reference to what was going on, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You were kind of taking a shot at the other guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was. I didn't say that back then. I just, I made up some story about it now. It was like, I don't know what I said back then. I was so high. But anyway, it was a great album, and it was a real great statement, too. You know, and everybody said that it was better than anything Flesh had ever done. But a bunch of things kept it from becoming a big hit. Yeah.
Okay.
Like for starters, my manager pulled a choke job. And then the label dropped the ball.
Okay.
Yeah. At one point, Nick Bergman, who was the head of Marrakesh Records, he took me aside and he said, basically, I was being blacklisted.
Blacklisted?
Yeah. He was crying when he said it. He was so upset. He said, basically, Flesh has a new album. They have a new drummer, this guy named Rick Trucks, and they're about to release their first album without me. And he said, even though my album, which I will say contains some of the best kind of soft R&B that anyone's ever made, he said it was amazing. It was far beyond what Flesh was doing. They had to bury it.
Bury the album.
Yep, they had to bury it, and to promote the S out of the new Flesh album, Suck It Up. Yeah. He said they were contractually obligated to do it. There's nothing he could do. His hands were tied, and I'll never forget this. He was in tears, and he threatened to fold the label because of it. But I said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
So you talked him out of it.
I did, yeah. He wanted to abandon his own label because my record was so much better than what they were doing. Yeah.
But that's why that album did not perform.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I guess that was when things took a turn for the worse for you, Gar.
Yeah. Some bad stuff.
Yeah, like I guess you kind of that was your first trip to rehab.
It was. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you actually did. I guess it's that thing where these problems, and then a good thing comes out of a bad thing.
Yep.
That
Silver lining.
you made a pretty powerful friend at the treatment facility.
I did.
It was the guy who did the show, Southside General, the producer of the show.
Yep. Blake Daniel.
Blake Daniel.
Yep. Yeah, Blake was an awesome guy, and we kind of hit it off there. And he recognized that I had real acting chops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do this great Humphrey Bogart impression. He loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I told him all about my time in the Newbridge streets and the gangs. And when he got out of rehab, excuse me, he called me up and he said, I wrote this character based on you for the show. Do you want to play him?
Mm-hmm.
I jumped at it. And I moved to Hollywood.
Okay.
And I got the show, and, man, that was a real trip. I thought the rock and roll world was debauched and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, here I am, a kid from the streets of Newbridge out in Hollywood, and, man, it was a total 180.
Uh-huh.
Where we had rats, they had models.
Okay.
Where we had trees that were made of garbage, they had trees that were made of palm trees.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't long before I got used to that lifestyle, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it certainly didn't hurt that I was on a white-hot show playing a character that the people couldn't get enough of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was even some hush talk about my performance being so electrifying that the networks were going to submit my performance to the Oscars. Not the Emmys, the Oscars.
The Oscars.
Yeah, they thought it was going to be the first time that that TV acting would get an Oscar nod.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, what I've never heard that before.
Yeah, you sure didn't.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a lot of backroom dealing going on there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Long story short, I was blackballed by Andy Griffith because he thought that I was, quote, running too hot, and he, quote, didn't cotton to a rock and roll outsider taking all the juicy parts that Hollywood had to offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So Andy Griffith.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He screwed me. So basically, but at this point, I'm living at the Chateau Marmont,
mm-hmm.
And I'm hanging out with all the stars of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I spent every night partying with guys like John Belushi,
mm-hmm. Fred
Fred Astaire, Danny Kaye, Andy Warhol, Alan Funt, Mickey Rooney, Mario Puzo.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those guys, man.
Wow.
We were known as the new Rat Pack.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's some crew you had.
I know, and I was their Sinatra.
Okay.
Yeah, I started. I took to calling myself Rockin' Sinatra.
Rockin' Sinatra.
Yeah, isn't that pretty cool?
Well, I mean, I guess it made sense within the context.
Very cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so one night we're cruising around the strip,
mm-hmm.
and this car pulls up alongside my motorcycle.
Yeah.
You're never gonna believe who's driving this car.
Who?
Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra.
Yup.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls out a gun.
Really?
And he aims it at me.
Okay.
He says, "Pull over."
Yeah.
So, he's Sinatra. I do as I'm told, right?
Yeah.
Even though I probably could have decked him, while I was still driving my cycle, just put my hand out and smash him in the face. But I wanted to respect him, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So Sinatra, he gets out of his car and he steps over to my bike and he says, "I hear you've been calling yourself Rockin' Sinatra, pal. I want you to knock it off right now, bright boy, see?"
Mm-hmm.
This is the chairman of the boards, right?
Yeah.
He's talking to me. He's
mm-hmm.
really trying to scare me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't answer him.
Uh-huh.
He goes, "You deaf or something, Chief?" And he's staring at me with those blue eyes,
Yeah, yeah.
They used to call him, Dr. Blue Eyes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so...
I think it was old Blue Eyes.
What?
It was old Blue Eyes.
It wasn't that old.
Okay, I think... Never mind. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So, anyway, I'm looking at him, and I'm not sure what to do, right?
Yeah?
So he goes, "Answer me, you punk."
Uh-huh.
So I do the only thing I can think of.
Yeah?
I slapped him right across the face.
You slapped Sinatra.
I did, yeah. He stood there just like in a daze. He starts rubbing his cheek.
Yeah.
And he looks up and looks like he's just going to demolish me, right?
Mm-hmm.
My handprint.
Yeah.
That same handprint that had caressed countless women and beaten the drums on records that would live for centuries is now imprinted across Frank Sinatra's face.
Wow.
It's a really tense moment, right?
Sure.
He starts laughing.
Yeah.
And he keeps laughing, just laughing away.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if this old man had finally lost his mind or what.
Okay.
But he turns to me and he says, "You're all right, kid. You know what? I'm having a little shindig at my place. Why don't you come on by?" You believe that?
That's insane.
Right?
Yeah.
So I followed him
Yeah.
all the way to his palatial mansion. Once I was there, just levels of bacchanalia. I could never have dreamed of these levels of bacchanalia. I met everybody there. Dean Martin, Orson Welles, Rick Rude, Scatman Crothers, Harry Morgan, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Every one of them engaged in partying at a level that a young buck like myself could barely keep up with.
Wow.
I'll tell you another thing. That night had two major highlights for me.
What
One,
were they?
I met former President Reagan.
Sure.
He was smoking a joint as big as a Duraflame log.
Reagan
was, yeah. I mean, I know he was the anti-drug president. Yeah, in public he was. Yeah, I'll tell you, he had the most potent, sticky, icky I've ever had the pleasure of puffing upon. Yeah. And later that night,
Yeah.
I also hooked up with this A-list Hollywood actress.
Yeah.
And an internationally famous singer who are without a doubt the most famous women on the planet at that time.
Really?
Yeah, I can't name them though. Yeah, I wish I could. Yeah.
But you can't?
Oh no.
Okay.
So I look at myself in the mirror that night, after I did a line in the bathroom. I just said, I finally understand you, Tinseltown.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story.
Yep.
Gar. Man. Well, I don't want to give away the whole book. I mean, people
No,
should
please,
buy.
I want this to sell.
People should buy a pound of flesh.
They should, yeah.
And but I guess you can talk about the stretch maybe after you got fired from the soap opera, and then there was kind of a long streak of, I guess, what you'd call bottoming out.
Yeah.
There, like Rehab, another solo album, Rehab, like Back to Rehab.
Another record, yeah.
Another record.
That was a
back
real
to,
pattern.
Yeah, Back to Rehab.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah,
very soul-crushing and also optimistic time for me, that long stretch. There was some, like you said, some heavy bottoming out, but some also real creativity. There were some great albums that I put out at that point, during that period. Back Where I Belong, Home Again, This Time It's For Real, Promise Kept, Smooth Sailing, By the Grace of God. Those were all great records, But I'll tell you, one after another, it was just a cornucopia of choke jobs and balls dropped with all of them. Yeah.
Because none of them really.
They didn't really make a mark, any of them,
No.
unfortunately. But that certainly wasn't my fault. They were great. It was great music. Yeah. And by the end, there it was hard to find a decent label.
Sure.
Yeah, none of the labels knew what they were doing. They were all kind of fly by night. My last solo album, The Best I've Ever Felt, which is a collection of my favorite ballads of all time, that actually came out on True Value Records.
True Value.
Yeah.
Which is it's not the hardware chain.
It is, yeah.
I didn't know they had a record label.
Short-lived, yeah. And they blew it, of course. They positioned the records of course, in all their hardware stores, but they positioned them, in the lawnmower section. Which, who's gonna buy a lawnmower? You've got money, and you go specifically for that. You don't want a CD. You put it by the by the checkout. Like it's called a point of purchase.
Yeah, so they kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah, choke job too. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And around that time, after a lot of those records,
right.
you it was kind of unexpected. You got back with Flesh, with the
I did, yeah.
the original lineup.
Yep. Yeah, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I threw them a bone, is what that boiled down to.
That's
what they wanted to regroup, and they knew they couldn't do huge business without me being there, so I did them a favor.
But then you kind of you eventually got fired from the reunited Flesh.
That's what they say. You know, I honestly quit again. I was tired of them. Yeah, they were holding me back. They didn't want to play the songs as slow as I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wanted to wear the brief again. You know, that's what the kids want me to wear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yes, I gained a little weight.
Mm-hmm.
Might not have looked the same.
Yeah.
You know, but I let the dogs out. I guess they didn't like that specifically. That was
Okay.
one of the big things. And of course,
Sure.
they also complained that I was complaining too much. You know, so I was just tired of it by that point.
So you
I
quit.
split.
Yeah. Well, Gar, I got to say it's been a thrill talking to you.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
this is just a drop in the bucket for
It is.
what people can expect from the book, A Pound of Flesh by Gar McDaniel. And I loved the book so much. And I actually, I have to say, I took the liberty of sending the book I got, the galley copy I got, and I sent it along to a couple friends of mine who are directors in, they make movies.
Really?
Yeah. One is Phil Morrison, and the other one is Peyton Reed. And they both flipped for the book.
Really?
Freaked out.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, they want to take A Pound of Flesh, the book,
Right.
and they want to bring your story, your life story, to the silver screen.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for doing that.
Hey, no problem. I mean, they flipped their lids when
Well,
they.
of course they did. It's a great story, and I'll be honest here. It's going to be a great movie. You know, I could see this thing ranking up there with all the great movies like that: Coal Miner's Daughter, The Doors, Citizen Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this thing's going to be big, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about time I got my due.
Yeah, I really think it's gonna. I really think it's gonna pop. I know that they were lining stuff up with New Regency, the
Really?
studio. Yeah, which is a huge.
So it's really rolling already.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big deal, and I'm actually helping, kind of, facilitate things at a more kind of functional level on this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just kind of trying to help get the pieces into place and
Right.
doing some legwork, trying to lay out the groundwork for everything.
Right.
And yeah, and I mean,
Cool.
it seems like this thing is ready to blow up.
Awesome.
And
Very exciting stuff.
I mean, I talked to the guys earlier, and
Right.
I know. I think they could probably announce the thing as soon as they just get you to sign a statement, just saying everything's in the book is true and verifiable. Gar? Hey, Gar? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Hold on a second, Gar. Actually getting a text. Hold on. Yeah, one of the guys over at New Regency is actually sending a courier over to your house. They want to get this statement signed so they can just move forward with this. So just keep an eye out for a guy named Mark. He should be there any second.
Oh man, that's really unfortunate because I'm on tour right now, Tom.
You're on tour?
Yeah. I'm on tour in the USSR.
The USSR.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't think the USSR exists anymore, Gar.
Sure it does. I'm in it.
and also
There.
when we first started talking, you said you were cooking dinner with your family.
Oh, no, that was a joke, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm always joking about stuff.
Uh-huh.
Just a kid from the streets of Newbridge, we joke a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, question for you.
Yeah.
Who are they thinking of having play me in the movie?
Well, I mean, I know somebody that was at the top of the list was Christian Bale.
Oh, no, deal's off.
Deal's off.
Yeah, that guy sucks. He can't act.
No.
Yeah, let's forget this.
No. Well,
I'll talk to you later.
Christian Bale is amazing.
Oh, he's terrible.
No, he's one of the biggest stars in Hollywood.
What's he been in?
Like the Batman movies.
Oh, I hated that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Oh, he's...
Uh-huh.
Hey.
Yeah?
Hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
In a book like this,
Yeah?
the co-author, like the guy that actually kind of did the nuts and bolts writing,
Uh-huh.
he'd be more in trouble if the person who told him the stories fudged something, right?
Wait, I'm trying to follow that through.
So, like, if a person kind of dictated stuff to the guy that actually wrote it,
To a okay, the guy who was the written.
the guy that actually wrote it is in trouble, right?
Well, I don't think at all. No, I think.
I'm asking because I saw it mentioned on TV the other night. Yeah.
Well, I would think the person who.
Just curious.
Well, no, the person who would tell the stories to the co-author, that would be who the buck would stop with.
Mm.
You know, I mean, Gar, you did have to sign something that said the stories you were dictating for the book were true, right?
No, I mean, man, I don't remember. I'll be honest, I relapsed again, and I was on crystal nail gun that night.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to sign all that stuff. Have you ever done that?
Crystal nail gun?
It's that new drug that makes you eat your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of crystal nail gun.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible drug.
Well, I did just get a text from Mark here. He says he said he pulled up to your house and all the lights went out.
What?
Uh-huh. I mean,
I wonder what's going on there. I'm on tour.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, he said he's about to ring your doorbell. Gar? Gar? Hey, Gar?
Yeah?
Gar?
What?
Look, you can
A
be...
lot of Russians around me.
What?
Yeah, a lot of Russians around me. They want me to play soon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they can't get enough of my playing.
Uh-huh. In the USSR?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if you're... You can level. Why don't you just level with me?
What do you mean?
Did you make up these stories in the book?
What? No! How dare you? I'm a People's Choice winner. You bastard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hold on a second.
What are you doing?
Because the listeners are sending stuff now. Just saying, all right.
What are people saying?
The only thing about you being in a gang was you were in the Newbridge AV club, the Newbridge High School AV club.
What?
Uh-huh. And then you were in the school's junior varsity wrestling squad.
What?
Uh-huh. Which seems to kind of be the only new in the for the Newbridge Herald Times Gazette, the only mention of you as a child. And it says the girl who pinned you. Wow. I can't even say this. It says that you I'm sorry. And the girl who pinned you actually slipped in a puddle of your tears, and then she broke her leg.
What?
Because you were saying that when you recounted the story that two people started fighting and only one walked away.
Yeah.
Is this what you were actually referring to?
Wait, what? No! Look, you're working my last nerve, son.
Well, Gar, Mark keeps texting me here. He said he's seen from your basement window. he can see like a little light from a cell phone.
I told you I'm on tour.
Gar?
Yes.
You know,
I gotta play soon. Come on, hurry up.
if you think about it, everybody in those stories you mentioned,
Right?
right? They're all dead.
No, they're not.
Well, you go with Keith Moon and
Yeah.
John Entwistle.
Yeah.
And then there were other people. It was Mario Puzo and Alan Funt and Alfred Hitchcock.
Right.
And all those people, they're all dead, which would make all of these stories impossible to verify.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look, if I said these things happened, they happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gar, Mark keeps texting here. He said somebody quietly opened the cellar door and quickly ran to the dock behind your house.
What?
That's you, isn't it?
No.
You're on the dock?
I don't know what he's talking about. That's ridiculous. I'm in Russia, getting ready to play.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Hey, Gar?
Right?
Gar, I gotta say, you talked about, wait, what is that? Gar? 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 Hey, Gar? I don't know what I'm... You talked about... You said Mickey Rooney.
Oh, no, I'm losing control.
Oh, my God. I hope Gar is okay. That was... I don't know. That was troubling. Good heavens.